Hello everyone, my name is Paola Saucedo. My ID is 2727773. This is my evidence tree for contemporary world, Module 3, the new international order. I'm from Toluca and my group is 621. Okay, so here is my first page. Then we have my bibliography that I decided to put here. Now we're going to get into my work. Okay, so the first event that I put was the World Trade Center terrorist attack that happened in February 1993 when a terrorist with links to an Islamist extremist group detonated explosive in a van parked underneath the World Trade Center. 6 people were killed and thousands were injured. Actually, I personally believe more people were killed, but as it happened in Tlatelolco, we really can't know the exact number of people killed because there's so many people that, for example, maybe illegal immigrants that didn't have papers and they didn't know people didn't know how to know who they were. So that's the reason why we can really have an exact number of people killed, but that's just an estimation. Then we have the Facebook is born. On February 2004, Zuckerberg launched the Facebook as it was originally called. It became Facebook.com on August 2005 after the address was purchased. And in September 2006, the network was extended beyond education institutions to everyone with a registered email address. That means, for example, Mark Zuckerberg made the app for his university, but as on 2006, it was no longer just for that university, but it was globally, and everyone that had an email address could log in and be part of Facebook. Then we have Barack Obama becomes the first black president of the USA. That happened on November 4th of 2008. Senator Barack Obama of Illinois defeats Senator John McCain of Arizona to become the 44th U.S. president and the first African American elected to the White House. In these pictures we have, the first one is a picture of Barack Obama, and the second one is the most retweeted picture on the history of you can say Twitter. It's Michelle and Obama hugging after he was re-elected in 2012. Then we have the death of Michael Jackson, who died at age 50 in his rented home in Beverly Hills, Los Angeles, on June 25, 2009. The cause of death was an overdose of the drugs propofol and benzodiazepine and a cardiac arrest. There's a theory that says that his personal physician actually killed him, so it was a murder, not an overdose. And there's also theories that Michael Jackson is still alive and he just decided to freeze his body and has a clause that says that he is going to be unfrozen, you could say, on 2020 to make his big comeback. But that's just what people are saying, that's just rumors. As of the record, he died on 2009. And then my last event is actually very recent, is the Orlando Pools homophobe attack. Probably a lot of people have heard of this, but they don't know the real story. It is actually the biggest mass shooting on the US history. It happened just on June 12th of this year, 2016. Approximately 49 deaths and 53 injured. I remember this because I was in France when this happened, and I had a lot of friends that were affected by this, and the world was in shock because even though people said that it was a terrorist attack, I personally believe it was a homophobic attack because the club, or the called Pulse Club, where it happened, was a LGBT plus inclusive club. So I mean, it's not a coincidence that only gay people were affected by that shooting. So I took that event personally, and it was something so important to me that I think more people need to understand that you can't just cover homophobia by calling it other names. There was no other name for this act other than homophobia, because just think about it. The club was a gay club. It's just okay. So the 911 received a call that was the supposedly it was the shooter, and it said that he was in alliance with Islam. So that's why people believe it is a terrorist attack. It could be, but again, that's just speculations. Then going on to the definitions, I have globalization is the tendency of investment funds and business to move beyond domestic and national markets to other markets around the globe, thereby increasing the interconnection of the world. Then we have terrorism, that is the use of violence and threats to intimidate or covert, especially for political purpose. Then we have the unipolar world, that means being dominated by one superpower, in this case the USA. And then we have the digital era. It's a historical period characterized by the existence of the digital technology. Now, for example, digital era. Most of these events we wouldn't even have known that they happen if it wasn't because we live on a digitalized era. For example, we would have never even care about 9/11 if it didn't have a mass coverage from newspapers, from television, from magazines. Again, Michael Jackson's death, Barack Obama. Facebook is a very good example of this, because it is a social media that is actually one of the most important social medias as of right now, and social media is what basically represents the digital era. Then for terrorism, well, again we have the 9/11 that happened. There's a theory, again I'm sorry for the theories, but it's a theory, that the president of the USA at that time caused the attack to the World Trade Center instead of a terrorist group, just like for it to be a distraction from the money bankrupt they were facing. So the president said that he was going to fight terrorism, but instead he fight the whole country. That was something that just wasn't fair, because it's not like the whole country was focused on that terrorism attack. We need to learn to differentiate a terrorism attack from a religion, from a country, and then we can proceed. Globalization is a term that is okay. While I was doing this investigation, I found out that some countries don't even want to be part of globalization, but they are forced to be into it, because if they don't follow what the world is doing, they are going to start to decrease their economy, and they're going to start to fall apart. And it's just it doesn't matter how we say that we don't want capitalism and globalization and all those things, because it's something that if you don't go with the flow, you're going to fail. Then, well, moving on, we have the question, why did globalization emerge? The easy and obvious answer will be to make life easier, but actually it was the necessity of making things and services cheaper and more accessible. But while doing that, we reduce their quality, and that has led to many problems. Another thing that I discovered while I was doing this investigation was that the Cookie Monster is a good example of how some countries were pushed to enter this thing called globalization. For example, I'm going to explain. The Cookie Monster doesn't have an stomach, but it still enjoys cookies, and it's not because he really likes how they make him feel, because he doesn't also, like, he eats them and then nothing happens because he doesn't have a stomach, because he's a puppet, and he still likes cookies because he's told that he should like cookies. So that's what happens with globalized countries. Then, in most cases, what caused the terrorist attacks of the 20th century? Most people believe that there are only two main motives that cause terrorist attacks. It's social and political injustice, and they believe that violence will make a change and at the end justifies the ways. That means that they believe that for example, if you have violence on your country and you believe that fighting that violence with more violence is going to end on a peaceful way, or you're going to end the bad things, and that the way you fight them is going to justify the ways. But that's not how it works, but people still need to learn that. Then we have, how does the end of the Cold War relate with the unipolar world? USA was, as we could say, the winner at the end of the Cold War, making it the most important superpower that led to every country depending on them and their growth. Some people say the USA sneezes and the whole world gets the flu. And if you think about it, it is really true. For example, you see the recent elections. It wasn't just the USA president election. It was more like the whole world was involved in this. No one wanted Donald Trump to win, because his winning would mean that the world would be broken. And the whole world was invested on them, and they still let us down, and he won, and everyone was mad. And that's an example of how USA sneezes and the whole world gets the flu. Then we get, how has the digital era influenced today's society? Personally, I believe we live in a digital society, and almost everything is technological. And while it might not be that bad, and I believe that we might be losing the traditional way of communicating in order to develop a new way of doing it. For example, we no longer, well, we do, but we are losing that culture of writing letters or saying a lot of things in person, and we are transferring that to saying it by message. That is an easier way to deliver messages. So we're not losing cultures, we're just evolving them, and I don't think that is a bad thing. I just think we are evolving. Every era had a thing that, for example, I believe that when they invented the newspaper, everyone was like, oh, we're getting bad, people are no longer talking, they are having breakfast with their newspaper and instead of talking with their family. And the same goes with, I don't know, the automobile invention, the TV invention. So everything that something new happens, the world is like, oh, we didn't used to do this in the past. Well, that is because we are evolving. For example, now we send messages via Twitter or simple images, and nowadays we keep on finding ways to make life simpler for all of us, and I don't think that is a bad thing. Now we have my conclusion. Personally, I always feel kind of funny when I read about a historical event and I realize that it happened no more than 5 years ago. While I was doing this research, you really take in mind that a lot of important events happened in a really short time. Like you could think about it, and maybe we weren't even born, but it was like 2 years before we were born. And history is happening right now as we are living, as we are breathing. We are making history, and it's time that we wake up and start learning from the past, to learn from our mistakes and to stop us from doing them again. Okay, this was my evidence tree for a contemporary world, and I thank you so much for this course. I have learned a lot of things. Thank you.